Testing, testing. I love you too, Red.
We actually used to have a city councilor here named Backoff.
I used to love you.
Okay. Yeah, we got 15 seconds. I'll do a split screen so I don't need to see that if you need to see that. Hope so, because you're scrolling with it. There we go. It is that time. Bang, bang. She shut me down. Welcome to the City Council Chambers at 10 West State Street. Today's date's January 13, 2025. The time's 5:30 p.m. We're gathered here for a regularly scheduled City Council meeting. I call the meeting to order. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Fonseca? Here. Kell?
Here.
Lottie Hoff?
Here.
Mitchell?
Here.
Nichols?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Thompson?
Here.
Very good. Full house and a quorum. And here's the proviso about public comment. Members of the public may make any comments at any item that was not on the agenda during this time. You have to approach the mic, state your name and address, limit your comments to 3 minutes unless I authorize more. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and we shall not engage in discussion or debate on those items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on them so as not to fail to comply with the open meetings laws. It is now time for council and administrator and mayor comments. Do any of the councilors have any comments to make? Not hearing anybody or seeing a hand get raised. Carol, how about you? Any comments?
Did you skip public comment?
Oh, I did it again.
Every time.
Every time. Well, no, I didn't last time. But I was only here once out of the last 3 meetings anyway, so I'm losing my touch. It is public comment time.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can't believe I did that again.
Permission to come up to the council?
Sure.
Good
You may
evening.
approach the bench, they used to say to me in my other life. You bet. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Honor and Council. Thank you for, my name is Deb Wallum, 901 Kester Road, Ward 4. And I am the Executive Director at McFarland Clinic, and so thank you for the opportunity to speak. On behalf of McFarland Clinic, we'd like to thank the City Council members for your support of the McFarland Clinic solar project up to this point. We appreciate the efforts you've made thus far to help us accelerate the process, to accommodate McFarland, knowing that we were ultimately swept up in issues and concerns that stemmed from ground-mounted solar in residential areas. It has been evident to us, based on your actions up to this point, that you support the project and that what has transpired has been, for us, has been unintended consequence. I want to be really clear that speaking tonight is in no way meant to be critical of City Council, City staff, or P&Z members. Our goal tonight is just to make you aware of the most recent roadblock that we are facing and to let you know that moving forward on the project has once again been delayed. At this point, we don't believe that we will be able to break ground when the frost clears. So we understand that we are speaking during public comment, that it's not a topic on the agenda, and we don't expect any questions or action this evening. We're just asking again for the assistance of the council in moving this forward, as we believe we've taken all the correct and appropriate steps at this point, and we are still facing kind of unnecessary uphill battles to receive the permits that we need. So, and we know that this will get in the road of other future businesses doing the same as we're we're trying to do. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ron Franson. He's the Executive Director of Facilities Management at McFarland Clinic, and he's going to talk more specifically about the solar project.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you, Council. My name's Ron Franson. I'm from Ames, 2418 Ridgetop Circle. Work at McFarland Clinic. So I just wanted to give a status update on the solar project. From our submission of the P&Z special use application in December, we have been notified by city staff that the current code includes language that would restrict the maximum solar panel height to 6 feet for use in accessory solar fields. This is not practical in commercial operation. This will not only affect McFarland Clinic's project, but any future solar projects for existing businesses or future new businesses entering our community. Our application will be denied due to the height of our panels, and we have been advised to modify our design to maximum 6 feet or less in height. The reality of the situation is that it reduces the return on investment to a point that the project is no longer viable. This represents an approximate 200,000 year loss in cost reductions to our organization. There is no economical way to use commercially double-stacked solar panels that can achieve the maximum solar production per square foot properly with the height restriction of 6 foot. The second arbitrarily recommendation that the solar panels be placed less than 18 inches off the ground. This would nearly eliminate all plant growth underneath the panels, ultimately resulting in much more unsightly development, along with ground erosion occurring throughout the property. Through telephone conversations in March 2024 and continued email and phone conversations with Hector, your past planning and zoning representative, up until April 2024, when I had submitted the original site plan and requested permit documentation. Information on the height of our solar panels was not an issue under the current code. If we had known of the 6 foot height requirement, we would have raised concerns and also provided examples of why this wouldn't work. And we would have been able to make it clear to the city council and also to assist other businesses of this modification. However, today we are struggling to understand the code as it appears to be unclear regarding the elimination of a titled standard for solar panel arrays, principal use to be replaced by standards for in-ground solar panel arrays. I would like to request your approval so that I could display, but actually what I've done is I've attached to the documents some visuals for you to be able to look at. So you'll see them on the other pages. I was going to display them, but we don't have that video system set up here tonight. Those documents that I've attached shows you what a double stack 7 foot solar panel looks like, which is actually more like 14 feet tall. But when it's at about a 45-degree slope, you can see that we get up to 10 foot height in elevation. You really can't get around that. And the point on solar is that you need to maximize the square footage of ground that you have in order to produce the electricity that you need for your property. By limiting it to 6 foot, that cuts the whole production down to less than half because we can't achieve the full development. We are here today presenting a serious concern and requesting the City Council take action to provide a clearer path that has already been delayed since April 2024. I am equally concerned for other future commercial properties that are in the same PI zone that they should not have to go through this process or delays or special resolutions. So I'm here talking on behalf of McFarland Clinic, but I also care about the future people coming behind us that would want to do solar in Marshalltown. I really don't want them to have to struggle as well. This should be something that should be welcoming to the community. So I thank you for listening to the public comments that I have regarding our issue, and I sure hope that we can work out a solution for all of us to benefit from. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Deb and Ron.
Yeah, thank you all.
Good evening, Council. Dave Grieve, 128 East Main. On a lighter note, this weekend I went to the vet home for an Experimental Aircraft Association meeting, and this 101-year-old guy talked for about an hour and a half about his time in World War II ferrying aircraft from production to the coast, east and west coast, put on 1,500 hours in 2 years. And he had a book. He wrote down a bunch of letters to his family and stuff. Ended up having 8 kids and stuff. Fascinating thing. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, it kind of ties into one of the consent agenda items, which is updating the airport runways, which I wholeheartedly agree with. That's a great project, and looking forward to the discussion on the sprinklers today. Thank you.
John Warden, I live in Green Mountain. A person would have to live under a rock to not know of the now 24-plus months long disagreement between the Marshalltown Public Library Board and a growing number of patrons. It began in late 2022 with the board vote not to purchase patron-requested subscriptions to the Epic Times newspaper and American Rifleman magazine. The vote disregarded important MPL policy and procedures and those of the State Library of Iowa, and is now used to reject free subscriptions. Compounding the matter was a policy conjured in 2023, suggested by State Library, that both shielded MPL until 2028 from public scrutiny of any kind around the vote itself and policy deviation around the vote. Use of the policy in that way also disregarded State Library policy. Neither Director Rosenblum nor the board recognized policy and procedure deviations. There are other policy and procedure deviations too numerous to mention in this forum. More detail can be read in my letter to the TR editor published Friday and the Marshalltown, Iowa City Council Watch Facebook page. Patrons are ready to discuss all the details in an informal, untimed meeting. Since the council plays a main role in seating the trustees, it is past time for you to listen to details in this matter and urge the MPL to stop the tomfoolery and negotiate a compromise first suggested by generous patrons in early 2023 and in the goal of middle ground sought by the board, but not until 14 months later in 2024. In comment time at the MPL board meeting Tuesday, January 21st, I will, for the third time, ask board members to remain after the meeting to discuss the compromise middle ground. MPL board meeting procedures item number 12 states that comments can be requested any time during the meeting by board members. Over the past 28 months, board members Gaffney, Lyons, Lindholm, Morrison, Bennett, Beek, and Hall have not done so. Until proven otherwise, suspicion is that board members have been instructed not to engage patrons ever. I will also ask why a petition with nearly 200 signatures supporting the periodicals was rejected. One last thing. This council should hold its members accountable when they disparage citizens and disobey instructions at MPL board meetings. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ray Mitchum, 1402 South 3rd Avenue. On a little lighter note, I guess this is just kind of an update. Some of you remember that I'm a retired public school teacher of almost 40 years up at Union Whitten and Marshalltown both. And I thought you might like to hear about an incident I had last week at a supermarket. I had a lady come up to me and she said, "Mr. Mitchum, you might not remember me, but you had me in junior high and high school, and I graduated in 1971. And so that would make her a little over 50 years old now. I didn't recognize her, but she told me her first name, and I recognized her last name. And she says, "Mr. Mitchum, I just want you to know that I want you to keep up I guess she said the word pressure, but she said that you're doing the right thing at the library. And she said, I know that the city council is in charge of the library board of trustees and the mayor. And she says, even though it's not a comfortable thing, I hope you and your friend John keep at it. Because she says it is the right thing. She says, why wouldn't adults, you want to have access to a paper like the TR and the Des Moines Register? And I've had several people besides her and several former students have told me, Mr. Mitchum, you're doing the right thing. I'm not sure why the library board is not wanting to allow adults to read that. And I hope most of you know that Walmart carries the Epic Times, Casey's carries the Epic Times, and it's all over the world. And yes, if there are some people that don't want to read it, that's okay, but why not let the ones and allow the ones to read it that want to? And some of you may remember Fred Weingarten. He was at creative retirement out at the college, and I got to know him. And he and I disagreed on a lot of things, but he always respected my opinions. And he said, we listen to understand, not necessarily to agree. Isn't that true? I mean, we can disagree, but still listen to understand. And this is, as a teacher, I tried to teach that for 40 years to my students, and a lot of them remember that. And they said, Mr. Mitchum, keep it up. So I hope you recall that that is important. Thank you.
Anyone else? Now, would the council have any comments to make?
Your Honor, just a reminder to the public, with the freeze and thaw cycles we've been going through, potholes are coming up. So you visit our website or Google it. There is a pothole hotline. The city plays a vital role in letting us know where those potholes are. So I encourage you to dial in. It's just a voicemail with the approximate address, and those do get addressed. So seems very appropriate with the weather we've had recently. Thank you.
Anyone else? Carol, any administrative comments? I've got a few to make. I encountered one on the way to the Veterans Home today on Jerome Street between 8th and 9th Street, and it's pretty deep, and it must have developed immediately because I hadn't seen it the last time I drove by. Second, I may need to leave early. This is too much information, I know, but between 5 o'clock and 5:15, I had to take 12 pills for my procedure tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I have to get up at 4 a.m. and take another 15 pills, not 12. No, it is 12. And so Mayor Pro Tem is ready to handle things if you see me leave quickly. And he advised me that if I even have an inkling of that, I should leave very quickly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And I didn't warn her that I was going to do this, but Carol's husband died, and the visitation was last Wednesday, and he was just a wonderful family man, good person. We were glad to have them come to town, and a lot of people showed up at the MAC for the visitation for that. And so for Maddie, their 16-year-old daughter, and for Carol, I'd like to have a moment of silence to think about Harold. I just did it again, didn't I? It's Howard, not Harold. I've done that from the first time that I heard his name. Thank you. I'm down to 348 days, I think, as mayor. I'm not running again because I can't keep track of when people are supposed to speak or first names or what day of the week it is, for that matter. Let's go on to the... I did want to mention, too, it is fun to see the skating rink open. My wife and I were going to eat last night at Ocean City, and I heard somebody yell loud, epithet, a word that I can't repeat in public, and I thought, what is wrong here? And I looked over, and there were 5 guys all dressed up pretty warmly. One was on the ice on his butt, so he'd apparently fallen down. But it is fun to see that getting some use now. Let's go on to the next item, which is the boards and commission years of service recognition. Did anybody who's on the list actually appear? Oh, good. Okay. Oh, good. You did too, John. I missed you when you came in. Well, let me do this by listing everybody and how many years of service, and I've got certificates for the 2 of you here. We'll pass out the rest later. 5 years, Heidi Hogan, Board of Appeals, Dave Schultz, Building Board of Appeals, Kelly Thurston, Building Board of Appeals, Cindy Brodeen, Park and Rec Advisory Committee, Laura Eilers, Planning and Zoning, Leon Labor, Solid Waste Commission. You are
I'm Heidi Hogan.
I skipped. I said you at the very first. I'm sorry. Okay, so you're in the 5-year branch. Nancy Harris, Civil Service Commission for 10 years, and Norm Bach, 20 years. Thank you so much for doing that. And somehow John Boston made the short list, but that's because it isn't the same thing as planning and zoning, where I think we've got you up to about 60, 70 years, something like that with planning and zoning. So thank you. I can't even get through awards like that. It is pivotal to have the right people apply and be in these positions, though. We used to have a committee system that worked okay, I guess. Counselors would be on each committee and that sort of thing. But right now, it's pretty much citizen-driven for all of the commissions and boards that we have, and we appreciate the time. And you don't need to stick around. I wouldn't if I were you. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't. I've even got a good excuse to leave early, don't I? Let's go on to the consent agenda. Anybody want to move to approve it?
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca, yes, Cal,
Yes.
Very good. Those carried, and they are printed and on the website if you need to see them, so we don't have to read them. On to the next item.
We have a report from the Marshall County Emergency Management Agency Services, and Kim Elder is here.
Good evening, Kim Elder, Marshall County Emergency Management Coordinator. For those that I haven't met or seen in a while, I apologize. It's been busy on, I think, everybody's plate ever since COVID. We had the trifecta, I called it, the tornado, the COVID, and the Dre show all at the same time, pretty much. It just all wrapped together, and so we were all busy. But I'd like to start getting back out. I've been gradually getting back out to city councils and just reintroducing what emergency management is and taking any questions that you have, but just reminding you that emergency management's here for you. And definitely you're a big part of it, being Marshalltown being such a big part of our county population. So I've got some books that I'll hand up to you as I leave. And I've got more if you want more. If anyone's having trouble sleeping, it's a good read. So, but basically, I just wanted to remind you what emergency management was. So emergency management is formed at the state through the 29C in the Iowa Code. And it is a liaison between Homeland Security and emergency management at the state level and our local. So anything that our locals would need or request, state resources, federal resources, would funnel through the Emergency Management Commission. The Emergency Management Commission then hires a coordinator, obviously myself. I've been here 20 years this month, so been around for a little while. But the Emergency Management Commission is comprised of the mayors of each of the municipalities in the county, the sheriff, and then one of the board of supervisors. So they all have equal representation on that board or on that commission. and you're all equally represented, meaning you all have one vote. Marshalltown, State Center obviously are bigger than Rhodes and Gilman, but they all have equal opportunity to use emergency management for the same things or different things, depending on what their resources are. So some of the little smaller municipalities may use me for help with planning where Marshalltown may not need that because you have some really good planners within your city, but it doesn't mean you can't reach out for that. I am in charge of organizing the overarching emergency management plan for the county. And the county meaning as a whole. I'm not a county employee, I'm an employee of the commission, so all of you equally. And so that overarching plan then is updated frequently. We do a third of that every year, so every 5 years, or pretty much starting back over 4.5 years. And that plan is, again, it's a high overarching plan, and you're still in charge of your operational plans and the things that you do every day. So you also have a plan that just basically fits right into that. And I talked to Carol a lot when she came on, and we kind of looked through, what your plans are. You have some great plans because unfortunately you had a large disaster, but that does make you go back and look at your plan and make you update it and just fine-tune things. But every disaster, it can be 2 tornadoes and they're totally different. So if you encounter another disaster, you're still going to look at that plan and update it. So I just encourage everyone, all the municipalities, to go back and look at their plans and just tweak them as they need to. Most of the things that we update are contacts, things like that, so the annexes or appendices that we have that have those contacts. But go back and look at it and revise the things that you need to. Staying in contact with each other is important. Most of the things that we do, just like most of the things you do every day, is by electronic, so emailing out my plan to make sure that everybody's familiar with it, and vice versa. I get yours and I find out where that fits into the overall plan. I introduce the municipalities to IMAC and EMAC, so the Iowa Mutual Aid Compact, where if you would need help, if we would need help in Marshall County, we're covered through some MOUs, but overarching MOUs or memorandums of understanding through the state level. So that'd be like your IMAC, and then your EMAC would be outside of your state. So things like that I keep intact are kind of the bigger things. But the local things, working with our first responders, ensuring that they have the training that they need. We all know budgets are cut, so the training dollars aren't there. Trying to get those free classes at least available. Sometimes we offer them and they don't fill up, so unfortunately we don't have those classes locally, but we do the best to at least offer those classes. So whether it's FEMA classes, whether it's state classes, whether it's something they specifically ask for, whether it's fire-oriented, law enforcement-oriented, whatever it might be. But we also offer classes that we encourage the municipalities to take advantage of. So it could be a planning class, it could be something else. I still encourage everyone that sits on any, especially a city council, that kind of thing, to be familiar with the IS or the FEMA classes that are independent study classes. And the classes they definitely need to have are the IS 100, the IS 700. Those introduce you to how things work, kind of what I just talked about in a nutshell, but it goes into depth for that. How FEMA works, how the state works, how local should work, what your responsibilities are. So even though I'm an emergency management coordinator, it's up to the commission members. So in your case, Mayor Greer would come to me or send someone to me and say, this is what Marshalltown needs, and this is what we're requesting. And then I'm going to come back and say, okay, what do you have and what have you used first? If you have a disaster especially, so that we can make a note of that, and then we can find out what do you need, what do I need to request from the state or from the federal level. So it basically works both ways for my liaison part of it. I make sure that you get what you need, but I also have to make sure that you're already using up the local resources that you need before you request it. So just kind of coaching you along those ways, since I kind of think that way on a daily. Just my level of thinking is what do we do every day. You guys don't deal with emergencies, thank God, every day. So it's my job to step in and kind of coach you on what we need to do next, but it's your decision ultimately. So it's each commission member's decision to what you want to do. If you want to declare a disaster, I can step in and say, here's how you do it, but ultimately it would be up to you, that kind of thing. So, but again, back to the training, exercising, those are daily things. So we don't wait for the exercises to get out and meet our partners and work with them. And so I encourage if Marshalltown wants to, be involved in exercises, or if you want an exercise built just for you. I know I work a lot with your responders here in the city. You got some really good responders that have developed their own exercises. Working within your municipality is great, but then branching out and bringing those others in, like you saw during disaster times, you're going to need others. So making sure that you're not only exercising your groups, but exercising with others is really important. And then I sit on a lot of boards and committees and commissions just to, again, make that partnership work. So our Board of Health at the county level, bringing that information back and forth to them. We built a CERT team, which is a community emergency response team. They are available for your use also. So if there's events that we need to take care of, they get involved with like Oktoberfest and things like that. So they help out kind of behind the scenes. But they are also there if you need them for, again, if it's a disaster, but if it's a daily thing, if you just need more hands on deck, they're that gap filler between the trained or very little trained or somewhat trained individual citizen and your first responder. So they kind of fill that gap in between. They can do things for the fire department, for the police department, and for others, so that they can focus on their job, but we can kind of backfill some of that, like traffic control and damage assessment, those kind of things. So we've got a pretty good team with that. We've been building. We do a class for that. For any citizen can take it, as long as you're 18 years or older, and we've been gradually building that. So we give that class every year. But just a lot of different groups that I'm with. I won't go through all of them, but definitely reach out to me if you have questions or concerns, or if there's anything that you want to, work towards to better what you do. Definitely here for your resource. Any questions?
Questions, comments up here? On reports,
Your Honor, may I?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Kim, has there been, have we done an exercise or a drill, like as a community for anything ever? 20 years you said that you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like what, is there anything planned for the future kind of?
Yep.
For that?
We do a lot of them behind the scenes, so you might not know that they're going on. The last huge one we did with all of our responders was at the college, where we did basically a shooter type situation, an intruder, a violent intruder type situation. So that was a couple of years ago. But we do things like, I just finished one with hospice where we went in, so that's kind of behind the scenes. We do with the hospital, I've been working with the hospital, and a lot of times it's not what we call a full scale, so you don't see the activity going on, but it's behind the scenes, so it's a little bit more, they're either tabletops or they're functional. So they'll full scale exercises take a lot of manpower, takes a lot of people away from their positions for an extended amount of time, so it's a little harder to do those, although I love to do them. So a lot of times you'll see we'll go to a functional, so we'll work one function of that exercise. It might be communications, or it might be just law enforcement, or we section out what it was. We've got a hazardous materials tabletop going to be done. It's in March. I sent it out, but I don't remember when it is. But I share all of those out with my contacts. So my contacts usually go to the city clerk and to the mayor or the city administrator, if, like Marshalltown obviously has one, some don't. So they'll go to the higher up, and then they push those down as they need to. But anyone's always welcome to the exercises that I push out. And if they're specific, like you want to exercise one specific thing, we definitely can write an exercise on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was wondering kind
Yeah.
of about, because we had the derecho and the tornado, and so kind of like for the citizens, like what to do, when that kind of happens, like
so
a
you're
shock.
thinking on like the
Yeah.
citizen level.
Yeah, the citizen level. Is that a
Citizen
thing?
level's a little harder to do an exercise because you have to control that. So we kind of do more of the educational exercise. So we tell them to kind of do their own. So how do you do a tornado drill? And we try to educate the population. So usually that's social media, TR, social media, flyers that we can get out, information we can do on the radio. I'll be doing that again in the morning. We do a lot of radio show kind of things. So we try to push those out and that kind of thing. But then like the Oktoberfest and places like that, we also encourage people to come up to our booth when we do that and tell them about what is a tornado drill. Some people come from places even within the United States that don't really see tornadoes and they don't know what a tornado siren is. So what should I do during a tornado siren? If it's a test day, we usually test on Tuesdays. You haven't noticed it lately because it's below 32, so our sirens don't operate that well. Just kind of a side note, the motor in them, if they get iced up, it can do some damage. So we've learned that over the years, and we're watching that as far as what we do. But what do we do during a drill day? So on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, when you hear that, we encourage citizens to, if it's just sit down and look at what would I do? Oh, I would go to my basement. Oh, a good time to review that. Or the schools encourage them to do it during that time. So just kind of going on and educating is kind of how we do the exercises per se for the whole community, because we can't control. Does that make sense? We can't control the whole situation if we did a community-based exercise.
Okay, and so sounds good. I was kind of wondering on also like what happens after, like who would be someone to get in contact regarding, I have no water running, or I have no electricity, I have no gas type thing, kind of after like a major situation, kind of like what has happened twice.
So how do we educate people before that happens? I have to say it is difficult to get to everybody. We try to educate, if this happens, here's, not everybody has an opportunity to get to a website because they don't have electricity, or their phone's not working, or they don't have that ability, or they don't understand how to do that. So that's a problem. But we try to give different ways of educating people, but that is probably my biggest challenge, I would say. Whether it's age differences, cultural differences, knowledge of how to use electronic devices, that kind of thing can be a barrier. There's a lot of barriers on education.
Right, like mobility and like can't even,
exactly. So that's probably our biggest challenge in general with emergency management. And I started going to the International Emergency Management Conference. I've gone for the last couple of years, and I not happy to know, but it's the same across the board so I don't feel like I'm alone, and we're having trouble getting to all the different types of populations. And there was a really good conference in November that we sat down, and that's what we focused on, is how do we get out to, because we so rely on electronic anymore. Like, you're going to get a text message to your phone, or you're going to go to this website, but not everybody can do that, and not everybody knows how to do it. So how do you get to everyone?
Right, and I think like after those disasters, Micah and CAPS and all the nonprofits were very involved to try to get groceries back. And
and that was part of our long-term recovery committee. And so I was involved in that too, but a lot, like I say, you don't see a lot of that because we're behind the scenes. So there are a lot of different agencies, Micah and CAPS were two of them, that were in that long-term recovery committee and still are. And we talk all the time about how can we better do this. And I think that's, again, a challenge for them too, How do we best do it? And at the time of the tornado and derecho, we found that going house to house with flyers sometimes was your best bet, because they maybe didn't have electricity, or we didn't know the language they spoke, whatever it might be. That is always a huge challenge, Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's a good lead-in, because I'm always looking for people. That's a good way CERT can actually help, is through that communications part. They did the flyers, a lot of them, through the disasters, whether it was in Marshalltown or throughout the county when we had the derecho. And I encourage people that want to volunteer and don't really want to be a firefighter, they maybe don't want to get that involved in the physical part of it. The CERT team is a really good group that can help fill that gap, because there's only one of me in my office, obviously, and you guys are busy when you're experiencing a disaster. We need those others that can go out and reach out. So be those reach outs. So, yeah,
Okay.
good questions.
Yeah, right, about like the getting prepared for, because we never know when we're going to get something like that again.
Right,
Who knows?
right.
So, okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
No, good questions. And yeah, my CERT team is huge on the preparedness part and the mitigation. So how can I mitigate this problem? How can I get out there and educate, that being that mitigation? How can I educate these citizens, these people that live here, people that pass through here, maybe just work here and live somewhere else? How can we educate those people to be better prepared for themselves? Because if our citizens are better prepared, it's going to help us all. It's going to help us to react and do our jobs. It's going to help our first responders to focus on those that really need the first responders, not those that just don't know what to do. So the more we can build, I think that CERT team it's really what we've been focusing on. We're a team of about 15 right now. We've been as high as 25, and I'd love to see it a team of 50. If we could, not everybody's not available at all times, so.
Is the CERT team the one where you guys are certified in, what's it called, the CPR and that volunteer group?
Yep, that
one
volunteer
goes-
group,
Yep.
Yep.
I
I think you were,
Yeah,
we
I was
kind of
at-
talked about it.
Yeah,
and
I was
yep,
at an event last
yep,
year.
Yep,
Okay.
and so, we try to get out to all the events and have a booth or have something that we can kind of encourage that. We have another class coming up in February. It's basically a free class. You pay for lunch the second day, but it's a free class for 2 days. And once you're done with it, you can either take that information and just go back and, encourage your family to be more prepared, your church, your school, or you can join the team and help out in the community. So it's a really good way to give back and not be concerned about being a real physical job like our law enforcement, our EMS, our fire, those kind of things.
So can the CERT team individuals, they're volunteers?
Yep, they're
Yeah.
volunteers too.
Okay, so
Mhm.
just anybody can
Anybody
reach
over
out to
18,
you
yep,
and
yep,
become a volunteer
absolutely,
and-
yep.
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. That'd be awesome.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, I can hand you these. Thank you.
Let's go on to motions.
Motion to appoint Mark Mitchell to the Solid Waste Commission, a term ending January 12th, 2030.
Move for approval.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to ask council's permission to be recused from the vote of conflict of interest, please.
It would be rare to have that be the case, except that this one actually does pay. And so there is a remuneration to it, so I was going to suggest that you not vote. So I appreciate that you recognize that. So we'll show you as abstaining. This isn't any discussion item, so let's call the roll.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Very good. And our next and last motion.
Motion to appoint Gary Thompson as the alternate on the Solid Waste Commission, term ending December 31st, 2026.
Entertain that motion and a second with the same proviso.
Move for approval. Second.
Roll call.
Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes.
Good. And we'll show Gary Thompson abstain too, just like Mark Mitchell did before that. On to discussion items. What are we discussing tonight?
Expenditure of funds for annual employee recognition.
Your Honor, council members, so I am proposing that council adopt a resolution that would allow me to provide to city employees an annual employee recognition breakfast. We can legally use public funds in Iowa for employee recognition and appreciation, provided that there's a defined public purpose and that we put in safeguards so that funds are not used excessively or irresponsibly. So I have provided council with a draft resolution. Some of the safeguards that are contained within this resolution is that we would any funds would not exceed $2,000 annually, that we would use the funds for an annual recognition breakfast. And included in the resolution is a statement about how the public benefits from the expenditure. Just simply, it's that appreciating the work of employees in any organization is shown to improve morale and engagement and results in better services. So if council would like, I would ask that you consider approving bringing that resolution forward.
The floor is open for discussion up here first.
I think it's a good idea. That's my opinion of it. We've got some really, really, really good city employees. They go over and above, and I think something like this ought to be done. I don't have a problem with it at all.
I've forgotten what the number is. I could put Jill on the spot if she were here, but I think it's upwards of 60, 70 people we are down compared to what we were back in the 1980s.
Yeah, I think in about the year 2000 we had like 196 employees, and now we're at 154, something in there.
So we're getting a lot of work done, and actually more responsibility, more time spent with a lot fewer people than we did. I just want people to know that, because next Monday we go into the budget session and have a special meeting on budget, and we're getting a big bang for the buck. And then this last year, where we had so many positions that were unfilled, they got filled, but they were filled by employees that had to work their extra hours and do extra effort to get the jobs done. So I wanted to throw that in. Anybody else want to comment up here? Gary?
Your Honor, if I may, and then just for the public's information, there are for lack of a better description, there's 2 in-service days a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this breakfast would happen during one of those days.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's just bringing the whole staff together for a whole day of training and then providing a breakfast. So I agree with Councilor Lottiehoff. I mean, I think every big organization does stuff like this in the public and private sector. It doesn't put the onus on higher up staff to go into their own pocket to do this. I agree that it's a great idea, and it's a small thing to thank the 150 people that are out there making the city better. So I would vote for this to bring it back.
Anyone else up here? Throw it out to the public. We wouldn't be the only city doing this either. Other cities.
It's been proven bacon brings smiles.
Okay. Anybody want to move for staff direction?
I would so move.
Second.
Roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Judge Moon, when he was in our office, and then when he became a judge, always had this little button on his desk or on the bench. You press it and said, well, that was easy. All right. And our last discussion item.
Downtown redevelopment, East Main and Center Street, fire service.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. This discussion item stems from a discussion we had back in June of 2023 related to our upcoming project on the East Main Street from Center to 3rd Ave, and then also Center Street from Church to State. Currently, there's a lot of buildings that are not sprinklered with fire service, and this project provides an opportunity where the street is already going to be torn up and provides a lower cost way to provide that opportunity to the business owners and property owners. So in your packet, I've included a memo that kind of outlines a lot of things. This discussion has gone through Marshalltown Waterworks. One concern is anytime that you would go in and add a service line, whether it be a domestic service line or a fire service line, if it's not being used, it's a good, higher potential that be hit by a utility company in the future because it's not active, it's not going to be marked, and some people may forget about it. Fortunately, we have better mapping systems today that we think there's a way around that. Both Shelley with the Marshalltown Waterworks and Chief Ryerson have met to discuss kind of a compromise on how we can potentially offer fire service lines or get them closer to buildings today, even if a property owner is not yet ready to connect with this project. And so in your packet, we have a tabulation of the businesses and properties along this project. This is in draft form, and the intent is that after we get some direction from you guys tonight about any potential incentives to property owners, we go back and confirm with property owners of their interest in participating at this time. So that's included for information only. When we talk about fire service lines, for those that currently do not have a fire service line today, anybody that has a fire service line today gets a new fire service line at no cost. But as we're talking about businesses and properties that do not have one today, we've kind of broke that into 4 different categories. The word internal fire service means that that property owner is interested in bringing a fire service inside their building, so through their basement wall. And short side versus long side. Short side would be if the water main is proposed to be on their side of the street. That's a shorter service line at a lower cost. A long side is if the water main is on the far side of the street, it costs more to bring it in. So the costs that are shown on here are just the water main material. It doesn't have any cost associated with any of the pavement that would be done above the water service line. And then as you go down, the word external. So those would be businesses today and property owners today that we've talked to that are not currently interested in a fire service line. However, we see the city, Marshtown Waterworks, the design team of Bolton and Mink see potential that this building could have future development. Maybe it has a vacant upper story where if they were ever to develop that, Iowa Fire Code may require them, or International Fire Code may require them to put in a sprinkler system. And so there was a discussion whether or not the city proactively extend a fire service line to within a couple feet of the outside wall of their building. What that would do is in the future, if they need to connect to it, instead of disrupting traffic underneath the street, they would be disrupting just the sidewalk in front of their building to be able to make that final connection. And so there's a couple of options on the table, and our question for the city is the city interested in incentivizing any property owner, whether it is to connect today, meaning during this project, or if the city goes in and stubs out some service lines as an external fire service, where we would set up some type of a connection fee where they would reimburse the city a certain amount in a future date to connect to that line. A couple of things about costs. We've put cost estimates, like I said, just for the water main material. If a property owner today wanted to do it and there was no street project, it would be these costs plus a couple of other things. Today, if they were connected to the water main, instead of a normal gate valve, they would likely have to use a tapping valve and sleeve. So the water main valve cost that's shown in here would be several grand higher. It would also require traffic control costs to shut down the road. And it would also require the cost of pavement removal and replacement. When you look at a short side service, that pavement removal and replacement's probably $8 grand. On the far side of the road, it could be 15 grand. So doing the project and doing the water work now is definitely an overall cost savings if a property owner were interested. So I will open it up for questions, but I'm looking for direction. This would all be city funds. Marshalltown Waterworks is not interested in putting in any proactive lines at their cost, but they are supportive and we've worked out kind of a configuration where they would be willing to have the city do that if the city would pay for those pieces. So I'm looking for direction. Is there any dollar amount that you guys would like to incentivize property owners to connect today? And looking longer term, is there a scenario where you guys would want us to install some external fire services and what that reimbursement potential or connection fee for a property owner for the future would be?
Okay, the floor is open for questions.
Your Honor, I can go first. I think I'd like to see an estimate of what it would be to get the internal fire service installed cost to all the buildings, assuming the owners want it. this is going to be the best time we're ever going to have to get this done. With the improvements that we want to see downtown, we want to see the private money flow into these buildings. This is going to make that investment less risky. And so that's what I'd like to see, is what it costs, and for the city to foot the bill to get the fire service inside. Hooking it up past that is on the building owner, but I think we should do it.
Yeah, so on the next screen here, for internal ones, we have 6 at a total cost of $85,000. We had proposed 13, meaning there would be 13 potentials that would stop outside of the building. Those costs would go in up about $6,800 per service. So I could do the math for you, but it would not shock me if we're closer to the 400,000 mark, because then I think you're saying every building and not just the ones that we're showing here on the list. But I think 400,000 would be ballpark in the figure right now.
Somebody with an engineering background behind you is shaking his head yes, too.
I was hoping that Greg was doing the math while I was talking, and he was going to tap my shoulder here shortly and let you guys know the number.
I see 2 other people in the room that might be interested. Deb Melizer, who's our new housing director, but formerly was the Central Business District Director for years, and John Hall at the Chamber of Commerce. I have a sneaking suspicion I know what each of them would advocate for the people that they have been representing over the years. But
Your
floor is
Honor,
still
if I
open
may.
up here. You may.
Heather, I'll echo what Councilman Schneider said. I'd like to see every property, be it the 6-inch shared on the property line, the 4-inch, whatever. And I'll go a step further, the vacant lots, stub them all in to the building, past the sidewalk, to the building edge. Because in my history in Marshtown, my age, we've been very lucky. The Elks Fire downtown, that was before a lot of people's time. We were lucky we didn't lose that whole block. The surplus supply building where the Gallery Garden is, we're lucky we didn't lose that whole block. I mean, if Meharry starts the TR on fire and the wind's out of the west, we lose that whole block. I mean, this is, if we truly believe in rebuilding downtown, this is the best way to spend money to make this available to every property owner. So I would go as far as say, not only stubbing in every building, but stubbing in all the vacant properties also.
I can share with you the vacant lot that's at the northeast corner of Main and Center. We currently do have a fire service line stub, and we're going to put a hydrant on it for the temporary purposes of making sure that's available. And then the intent is that if a building was built there, they'd take the hydrant off, and they're ready to go with a fire line.
Whatever the cost is, it's so much less expensive to do this now than lose our whole downtown or lose a block or 2. So that's where I stand on this. Thank you, Your Honor.
What effect, if any, does it have on the people that are developing upper story living?
So to take a vacant building right now and develop it into residential living situations, I believe the International Fire Code does require a sprinkler system. So if they don't currently have a fire line in, they are required to put one in to do that.
Other council comments before we open the?
Your Honor, if I may.
Sure.
Heather, you were saying the total cost could be 400,000, correct? Where would we get that from?
It's a great question. Right now, when you guys went out to do your general obligation bonds this last go around, we did that knowing that we were proposing and projecting to be short on this project. We're currently in budget cycle right now, especially reviewing some of the bond funds and projects that have come under budget, some of the interest that we've acquired through those, to see how much of that money we might be able to put towards this project. As we look to going out to bid, potentially ordering construction in February and awarding in March, we'll be providing you guys some potential funding options. And so if we're adding 400,000 to the project tonight, that would just be a bigger number we're going to have to bring back to you with an option to fund it.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Jeff and Gary. If you're going to do it right. These buildings being up against each other, we need to have every option available so that our downtown can stay beautiful once we get it done. So I'm all for doing it. I think it's a good investment for the city also.
Anyone else want to weigh in up here? Open to the public. Dave?
Dave Grieve, 128 and a half East Main, it's a subject near and dear to my heart. As you know, I've been trying to open up the development of that building for the past year, and going through what it takes to get a fire system in some of these buildings is very expensive in older buildings, up to $10 a square foot. And of course, you don't get a return on your investment on safety. You just don't. People only want the safety feature when they're on fire, like California, LA right now. They wish they would have full reservoirs and active firefighting activities. You know, if I put in an elevator, yes, patrons want an elevator because not too many people can climb 3 stairs of floors right now. I'd rather spend my money on that. However, I'm going to have to sprinkle the building to do what I want to do in the building, and so getting this fire service at least into for future development is critical. Talking with other business owners down the way, and I won't let them speak for themselves, but many people are looking at the cost of a fire sprinkler system as, well, there went my budget for carpet and wallpaper and everything else that I can try and turn a profit on by, you know, opening up a rental property or, in my case, entertainment or whatnot. So I realize budgetary systems are tough right now. I'll just state that if you want a prosperous town, you have to have a prosperous downtown. And the downtown is struggling for a number of reasons, and the derecho and the tornado has given some great opportunity, and there's some great progress rebuilding, but this fire stuff is what it takes to get safety and opportunity into the downtown area. And I'd even like to throw one more chip higher and say, what's it take to set the codes such that these systems aren't prohibitively expensive? I've been trying to research some of these fire systems, and they don't all have to have water in them. There's dry systems, there's dry water systems, and there's even heat signature systems. And the time that the fire department can get on site and get activity going is critical. Understand Josh's concern and the town's concern for fire. But even a heat signature map inside each floor that spots a temperature above 500 degrees, that should sound an alarm. Why is that temperature there? And the fire department can come and investigate. And that almost does as much as throwing water on it, because water gets you time for the fire department to get there themselves. So there's options out there, but water's critical. And this, if you want the downtown to proceed, everybody I'm talking to downtown can't do anything upstairs because of that humongous wall of cost on something you'll never get a return on investment. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this one? You bet.
Give me a sec. Okay, hello, my name is Marco. I'm from 11 North 6th Street. I've emailed you guys about my opinion on this issue, and I appreciate anyone who has read that and given me their opinion back. But I just also want to include it here in the public discussion. So, the City of Marshtown should ensure fire stubs and connections are provided to all businesses in the area at low or no cost to them during the reconstruction phase. This district is a key driver of the city's economic growth, generating substantial revenue and supporting the overall budget. By prioritizing investment in this area, the city can continue to see significant returns and encourage further development. After reconstruction, using the available levels of the buildings is a promising initiative, but this can hinge on the availability of essential fire services like sprinklers to meet safety codes. Without offering low or no-cost fire stubs and connections now, property owners may hesitate to invest in projects that could enhance that area's vibrancy and boost long-term city revenue. And then I also want to improvise some things too that this area, I think I emailed you guys also last weekend. I spent 15 hours analyzing city data, property taxes and their acres, trying to figure out their property tax rates. And Main Street is really an area where you really get your money's worth. They have really high, for their area, their property in acres, you really get your money's worth because they pay enough taxes to justify for their business space. So I'm happy to hear that some of you guys have vocalized your support for this, and others people here. So yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Your emails are interesting, by the way.
Yeah,
They are. I mean, you do a lot of time and study to figure that stuff out and do graphs that are effective. I hope you talk to our state senator and state legislator about the property tax stuff. Any other public comment?
I'll be brief. John Hall, Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce, 34 West Main Street. The comments that have been made by the council members regarding taking the time now to make sure that we deploy into the buildings, I think will ultimately result in a better environment aesthetically for the downtown for a longer period of time. That risk of tearing up concrete, even with replacement, we know that it often will always look different and have that impact. I also think that the opportunity we have on the East Main Street side of things will give us an opportunity to really explore what that could look like with the next phases of downtown reconstruction. In particular, one thing that I think would be worthy of exploration in future phases is a system that I've seen implemented in like the Valley Junction area, which is a lot of high-density buildings, all adjacent and connected, actually having a shared riser pump and sprinkler system, which minimizes everybody's individual costs and provides for the deployment of the sprinkler system block wide. So I think there's some additional options that we can look at again with future phases. But the other thing I would throw out with this, so I think I ran the numbers. I think it's a little under 300,000. If it's 6,800 times 13 in additional costs, that's about 88,000, and so I think it comes out to just under 300,000. But as you guys know, with any of these building redevelopment projects, any upper story housing or major rehabilitation, you're going to be asked for incentives at some point, and so likely this cost gets rolled into whatever that development agreement looks like, and whatever those ultimate costs are, and it's cheaper now than it will be then, and so I think any steps that you take to continue to help make our downtown incredible is going to be relevant and important, and return on investment will be significant. So, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Lee Bonner, 401 Orchard. I think it's a great idea. We had looked at investing in some property on West Main, but to sprinkle it was cost prohibitive in our situation. So I guess the question that I have perhaps for Heather would be, you're talking East Main, does this expand to West Main when we get there, when we're tearing things up? So I don't know, because she's talking East Main. Thank you.
Seeing no public comment, I'll address just a couple of points there. The chamber was correct that if you just look at the ones we've proposed here, you're probably closer to the $300,000 mark. We do not include all of the buildings on this estimate, so it is up 400 or so thousand. Also, Marco's a little taller than I am, so I'm going to lower that. So a couple of things. There are buildings that are single story. Starla's comes to mind that currently doesn't have a sprinkler system. Is it fair not to sprinkle that system, or are you saying you want us to stub something to that location? You do. Okay, so every building means every building, got it. Additionally, we cannot go in and stub something through their wall without their permission. So I think the approach, what I'm hearing, is that you'd like us to reach back out to all the property owners and say, hey, the city council is going to offer this to you at no cost. Would you like it? If their answer is yes, it'll go to an internal fire service. If their answer is no, we will look at external fire services. If there are multiple buildings or lots that are adjacent to each other that are no's, they don't want internal at this time, we could potentially look at a shared fire service at that point. We do currently have several businesses and buildings that are adjacent to each other that do share a fire service. Some of them are planning on continuing that. Some of them are planning on splitting at this time. So we've had some of those conversations.
Good information.
Your Honor, if I may, I just want to elaborate on what you just said, Heather, is I don't want anybody left out. That's personal. I don't want any lot left out. I don't want any existing business, be it 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, or whatever. If it's a buildable lot, which could change in the future, I want it stubbed. That's where I sit. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but that's where I'm at.
Might need to add another 50 grand or 100 grand to my 400,000, but I have the direction that I need.
Same head is nodding behind you on that one. But, you know, you look at how much it's going to cost total picture and what a small, minuscule percentage of that this section would be. It just makes sense.
Also, to answer another public comment question, I'm only in front of you tonight talking about the East Main Street project. It is my intent that we treat all projects the same. So if we're doing the same on East Main, we would probably be asking you to do the same on the West Main. We tried very hard on the State Street project that anything that we agreed to with property owners is something that is extended to all property owners, and that is our intent moving forward.
The city owns some of those after the tornado, and it will be better for getting a developer in. I think the staff has its direction. I think you can figure there's a consensus about how to proceed.
You need a formal motion to bring it back?
Wouldn't hurt to have it in the minutes, I guess.
Then I guess the first step is we need a motion. I would move for a motion to bring back we need adjusted numbers for one. And then that overall plan and what that is, and maybe that can come back as one, that we can vote on at the next meeting. So I would make that motion. If that's confusing enough, Alicia?
Yes, that is. I don't think we need to bring anything forward to the next meeting. I think you can make a motion to proceed with this currently, and they'll just include it in the project bidding.
Okay. That's what I said.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Let's call the roll on that one then.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie-Hoff?
Yes.
I'm usually in a hurry to go home, but I think my wife might have food on the table, and I just didn't hang around a while.
So you can't have any.
Yeah, because I can't eat tonight. I do have something I'd like to share with the counselors, but I can only do it 3 at a time. Good news. With that, 6:41, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming, folks.
Well, that's what we'll do.